Part 9. Methods of delivering your speech. All preparations are directed towards the delivery of your speech. It is the crown of your effort and is never to be relegated to any minor place in the scale of any importance. The logical flow with which a speaker outlines the fact around his subject, his command of language, and the control to which he has attained in the use of his body as a single organ of expression are all factors that determine the quality with which his speech is delivered. There are 4 basic methods of delivering an address: reading from a manuscript, committing the written speech, and speaking from the memory. There are 4 basic methods of delivering an address: reading from a manuscript, committing the written speech, and speaking from memory, speaking from notes, and extemporaneous speech. It is impossible to say which form of delivery is best for all speakers in all circumstances. When deciding on which method to employ, you should consider the occasion, the nature of the audience, the character of your subject, and your own limitations of time and ability. Reading from manuscript. Number 1. I consider it necessary to say that I do not favor this method on the grounds that it is difficult to differentiate it from public reading. Although there are occasions, mostly of ceremonial natures, when it is required that someone reads from a written speech, still its effect can never be compared with what one is to expect from skilled oratory. For one, reading from a manuscript always feels boring to the audience, and in most cases, you find some members of the audience dozing off midway through the speech. 2. Committing the written speech and speaking from memory. This method has its merit. Many notable speakers have been known to adopt this method. Of course, that is not leaving out great actors. Needless to say, this method requires much skill to make it efficient, and the inexperienced speaker should be warned before attempting this method. The method of writing and committing has been adopted by many notable speakers. 3. Speaking from notes. This is the most popular method of delivery and the most recommended for the beginner. It is the most popular method of delivery and probably also the best one for the beginner. Speaking from notes is not the ideal method of delivery, but we learn to swim in shallow water before going out beyond the ropes. With experience, a speaker learns to use little tricks to attract his eye. He may underline a catchword heavily, draw a red circle around a pivotal idea, enclose the keyword of an anecdote in a wavy line box, and so on. These points are needful because a uniformity of typewriting tends to elude the swift glancing eye of the speaker. 4. The extemporaneous speech. My bad. This is the ideal method of delivery. It is by far the most favored with audiences, and the most efficient speakers opt for it over others. With extemporaneous speech, the speaker delivers his speech without notes. To achieve this requires an application of all the lessons we have discussed in the previous parts. You also must bear in mind that your delivery of this method depends on your inspiration of the moment, and the most effective inspiration of the moment is the inspiration which you yourself have within you, bottled up within your spirit and ready to infuse it into your audience. If you can deliver with this method, you are sure to win the closeness of your audience. It is not possible for every speaker to use this. The most difficult for all method of delivery, and least of all can it be used successfully without much practice. But it is the ideal words which all should strive. There is one danger with this method, though. You may be led aside from your subject into detours. To avoid this, you should firmly stick to your mental outline. The next point: join methods of delivery. Many great speakers have adopted a modification of the second method, particularly lecturers who are compelled to speak on a wide variety of subjects day after day. Such speakers often commit their addresses to memory but keep their manuscript in flexible book form before them. Turning several pages at a time, they feel safer for having a manuscript handy, just in case. Still, this method hampers a free flow of speech delivery. Other speakers keep before them a rather full outline of their written and committed speech. Others, again, write and commit a few important parts of the address, the introduction, the conclusion, some vital argument, some part illustration, and depend on the hour of the language of the rest. This method is well adapted to speaking either with or without notes. Some speakers read from manuscript the most important part of their speeches and utter the rest extemporaneously. Thus, what we have called joint methods of delivery are open to much personal variation. You must decide for yourself which is best for you, for the occasion, for your subject, for your audience. For these four factors are all have something to do with the individual, and they all have their individual claims. Whatever form you choose, do not be so weakly indifferent as to prefer the easy way. You should instead choose the best way, whatever it costs you in time and effort. Of this, be assured only the practiced speaker can hope to gain both conciseness of argument and conviction in manner, polish of language and power in delivery, finish of style and fire in utterance. Very important note: the importance of reserve power. Only a reckless speaker goes before an audience without having some knowledge or information in reserve. But you will ask, what does a speaker's reserve power consist of? The answer is this: in a solid grounding on his general and particular grasp of his subject, in his alertness and resourcefulness in thought, and his capacity to master all of these aforementioned qualities as the occasion arises. An empty mind should be tended to. If you have no ideas on a subject, don't try to gloss the matter over with empty verbal acrobatics. Instead, bestir yourself to get the ideas you lack, and don't attempt to present yourself before an audience until you have gotten the ideas you lack and which you need. It is advisable that you actually have more than enough knowledge you need, because the abundance of your mass of thought and feeling will maintain your flow of speech and give you the confidence and poise which exclude reserve power. Of course, you understand the risk in leaving home with only your exact return fare. So how does this apply in the life of our boy? There was a day in Cape Town where he had gone with some of his work team members. They were meant to hold a speaking event or any workshop for farmers. But then it turned out that there were a group of farmers from out of Ghana, which is in West Africa, who were a part of the audience. So this aspect of the workshop hadn't been made known to the speaker. However, until minutes before he was to come to the podium. This was a problem, considering that his speech had been streamlined, betting on the majority of the audience, which was from a different African country, culture, background, etc. But he had to reach further beyond his speech to convince the audience that his company's product was also good for the tropical West African climate, as it was for them too in the southern of Africa. His wealth of experience growing up in rural areas offered him a way of situation that he was able to adjust and turn the speech into a winning